Hello, let's do a mashup today. I was thinking about doing Sonic the Hedgehog in the style of Marvel Rivals. I have no idea how successful this will be. Normally, when I do something like this, I am doing it in the privacy of my privacy, meaning I don't normally do video of it, but I've been getting a lot of positive feedback, and I also see that a lot of people tend to like be curious about how to build a portfolio. And I do plan to put together a long form tutorial about this, where in fact I will absolutely be recording my process, but I won't be like talking over it. I'll just be doing stuff, and then I'll talk over that. I mean, I won't be talking during it, I'll be talking over it. And then you can watch the however long video footage of me doing it, skip through it, and kind of jump across depending on what you're looking for out of it. But I figured I'd do kind of a small sample of what I would normally do. This might not be epic, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to approach this a couple different ways potentially in this one process. But the first thing that I'll do is I'm going to probably knock the background. Now, I might give it some saturation. And I'm looking at like the Thing and Squirrel Girl and realizing that they are not who I should be looking at for the colors. I should be looking at Sonic, this background colors. Interestingly, I think blue still works. I think warm against him is cool, but honestly, I think I'll just be okay with this. So the first thing that I'll do is just examine these artworks. Sorry for not knowing exactly who did these artwork. I just went and Googled, and these are like the first images I can find. I'm sure if you guys backtrack and look for these artists. In fact, what I might do is after this, I'll just probably see if I could find the artists' names, and then I'll just put them in the description. So that way you guys can follow them. At least for like the rivals. I think these are just like straight from the game, so I have no clue where to go for Sonic. But these I think could absolutely be tracked to some artist somewhere. Anyway, they're great, really cool concepts. A couple things that I'll probably echo, which is like these lines that are etching around the silhouette of the character. Another thing that I notice is a lot of faceting. I think this is in an attempt to help the three artists understand kind of the stylistic forms of these objects. And I got Squirrel Girl specifically because she has like more like hair and fur that I am absolutely going to have to borrow because Sonic is not made out of rocks. What I'm using the thing for is like maybe some of the outfitting here. And just overall style vibes. I like it. There's a rim light. It looks like it's always coming from behind them. And so that's important to understand. Okay, cool. So let's just go ahead and I'll just grab this blue and let's just go ahead and start to kind of capture the silhouette of Sonic the Hedgehog. And what I'm not going to try to do here is be perfect stylization of this, because what normally I would do is I would do lots of studies, but because I don't have too much time, I'm not going to spend years on this, or even weeks. I'm just going to kind of take the idea of what I think this is doing stylistically, and I'm just going to capture the silhouette. And I think for me, the muzzle of Sonic is very, very much smaller. So I'm going to probably, for the sake of stylization, I'm going to try to figure out how to do this ear. I mean, it's just a triangle sticking out, but I want to do it like stylized. Like if you look at this, it's kind of tapered. So maybe this ear is wrong. It's a little too big. Yeah, okay, cool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about etching this out too much. And I'm going to probably try to create some more chunks here. Yeah, okay, this is going as good as it's gonna go. And I think this is all attached to his head. This has made me realize I've never really drawn Sonic too often. And I think what I'm gonna do is give him kind of that same personality and gravitas. And although there's a lot of curves, if you look, they're very faceted in the way they draw. So I might have to change some of the proportions here, but it's okay. I'll just fix that later. I'm going to just focus on getting overall vibes here. And then because we have him facing this way, I think I'm gonna give him some musculature. He's gonna have some opportunity. And then his little glove, I'm gonna turn into some sort of cool gauntlet. Trying to think about how his hands actually capture to this. And for those of you who are not familiar with me like doing more stylized work, this is essentially how I approach it. I kind of want to do double hands on hip vibes. And then he's got his hair even coming down from his back. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, stylize. And I feel like he would have huge legs for how fast he runs, but that's just not what his silhouette demands. You know? If I was gonna try to do like a very super original take on Sonic, I probably would do that. But what I am gonna do is give him like more like stylized kicks, kind of like in the show. Like they gave him like actual like shoes, not these like half dome looking pieces. So we'll give him like a bit of a heel there, and I'll come back to like what that should look like. And part of me is like, should he be pantless or completely no wardrobe? And I don't know. You know, because these characters are definitely close to the original model. So it seems to me that I might want to do that too. And there is like curves in his eyes for the... Sorry, I'm like trying to pay attention to what I'm drawing here. But again, I want to try to make this feel like it could fit in this world. So that way it's absolutely bending the knee to rivals rather than bending the knee to the original Sonic franchise. Because that's kind of what you would do. So if you're working on an IP, typically a lot of the challenges that developers run into if they're working from a super established IP is stuff like this, like trying to kind of make it stick with the original source material and appeasing the IP holders, as you should. They're the ones that are gracious enough to give you the rights to work on this project. You should try to do your best to marry to like the original concept in any meaningful way possible. And so for me, whenever I would work on a project, I would absolutely like just spend, like I said, like a week or two just trying to understand kind of the demands of the project. I feel like I'm making these too much like horns. Perhaps what needs to happen now is that I just need to actually start painting. And I think the head would be bigger, but from what I'm looking at here, like I think the character stylized more heroic proportions. So it feels to me it's best I don't do that. Should I give him like, he's like, yeah, I approve. Would this be over here maybe? That might be better. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I like it. But I'm just curious about like the rotation of this. Should it be like more upright? I don't know. Let's begin painting this. So I did this like really rough sketch because I'm trying to focus mainly on the stylization of it all. And we're gonna pick like a different blue here. Will absolutely not be the blue that we're gonna go with. But what I'm gonna do, because it's too saturated in my opinion, I might use some of it. But what I'm gonna do here is absolutely try to capture a bit of the silhouette that I've created. I notice that um, there's that hair strand of hair that's part of the silhouette, but I'm gonna save that for after I start getting some of the like major forms in. And I think what I'll do, so I like a lot of like Squirrel Girl's. It's so hard to say. Squirrel Girl, Squirrel Girl. I like some of her like little flares of fur. I think I want to try to capture that with Sonic. But let me capture this first. And so all I'm doing here is going to try to capture the silhouette. And once I've done this, I am absolutely going to fill it in and then begin doing some painting, which is the easiest part of this whole process for me. I'd like to do line art for more stylized work because of the nature of it. I don't always. There's some stuff that I've done, or I'll just go straight into painting, but typically that will only happen if I already feel comfortable with the subject matter. Meaning that like I feel really good about how to you know, achieve the look consistently. And then when that happens, then I don't really need to do line art. I can just kind of go right into it. But because it's like literally the first time I've attempted this Rivals style, and what I might do in the future is do another attempt, maybe a different character, and just continuously do it. Okay, cool. Filled this in perfectly. Whoops, I saw it too right as soon as I filled it in. Okay, cool. And then let's, like I said, we're not going to use this blue. I want to get a bit of more access to all sorts of values and colors. So I'm essentially going to now begin painting on top of this. And let me look at like this painting. If I had to guess, they're probably using like a strong round brush. So let's try that. I could be wrong. But that's my guess. Meaning that there's very little flow, so they can like really like get in there. It's hard to tell with this resolution. But let me increase the resolution too. Let's go to 200%. Let's get as much resolution up in this bad boy as possible. Okay. So what I might do actually is completely add the colors in after the fact and focus almost entirely on the rendering style and then I'll put the colors on top. So if I'm starting from here, what this will look like is I will just essentially capture kind of like a 3D render of this, like a stylized 3D render of this. And I'm going to just duplicate this for safe keeping. And I'll just do this for my own sanity. All right. And so coming in here, thinking about the stylization, and like I said, I might try this a few different attempts. The hard work in my mind has already been captured, which is like the proportions, capturing a bit of the. Actually, we can probably capturing a bit of the stylization. And again, let's take a look at Swirl Girl. Yeah, it's really faceted, so I need to be a little bit more bolder. Because I can always go back and correct larger painting flaws. Like this part is like by far like my least concern. And to speak on that, like it's because it's my greatest strength. It's what I am most effective at. I am very good at painting. And like ironically, like sometimes just going into painting is a better strategy than going into line art. Especially when I'm doing more content that is similar to what I'm known for, like more of my dark fantasy horror aesthetics that I am typically seen doing. I am not going to get too caught up in the details here because I am absolutely going to make huge changes, not huge changes, but meaningful changes when I start to add in the color again. And so I'm just going to see if I can capture half of the work of the faceting here and then go from there. And again, I have no idea how these artists work. I haven't seen them paint. I've never seen them draw. So this is just me taking note of what I'm observing. And again, I think a lot of times people, when they see work online and they don't know how to replicate it, they kind of throw their hands in the air and they're just like, well, I guess I'll never know, right? Or they'll wait till like they see a tutorial, or they'll wait to see some sort of insight that the artist might be gracious to share amongst us peons. But that's not always the case. There's many artists that don't share their process at all. Not because they don't want to. Many of them are just busy or they just work. And some of them for sure just don't want to. They don't feel the need to. And that's totally reasonable too. And I remember one time I did this painting of, or I was talking to a student and they wanted to get more like this one artist called Phil Hale. They wanted to get more artwork similar to that. And I was like, yeah, I think Phil Hale paints like this and like this. And I was kind of giving some suggestions on how Phil might paint. And the student was just like, well, how do you know? Like, have you seen him paint before? And I was like, no, I've never seen him paint. And he's like, well, then how do you know that he does this? Like, what makes you feel confident that that's the way to do it? And I said, I'm only as confident from what I can see. You know, I'm looking at what I see they've done, and I just extrapolate from there, like an archaeologist might do, or a scientist might do when they discover new information. You know, just because we haven't seen the sun doesn't mean that we don't understand how the sun works. You know, just because we haven't seen dinosaurs walk the earth doesn't mean that we don't know that dinosaurs walked the earth and have some suspicions of how they ate, how they lived, you know? And that's the same way I look at like art. Like, even though many of my favorite artists of all time are absolutely gone, like they've passed away, because of just meaningful time, you know, like Leonardo da Vinci is just not around, y'all. And even if I was born during that time, that he was born doesn't mean I would have been able to learn from him even still, you know? And for me, it's like, if I don't know how these people paint or I don't know how these people draw, that doesn't stop me from trying to understand it. And I've done this so many times, as you guys probably can tell, that I have some, a little bit more authority and more opportunity to get this right than to get this wrong. And because of this, I am absolutely, you know, brave to try to attempt something that I know for certain I haven't tried. Okay, so here's where I'm like, okay, this muzzle is sticking out way too much, or I can bring the head out a little bit further out. So let's do that. And then this eye shape, I feel like I can do a better job. And again, I don't want to do this color stuff just yet. I'm already looking at this thing and yeah, I'm gonna make some huge proportional changes already. I was just testing the waters there, but we'll just wait till we get to a little bit more meaningful part of the painting process. Because I'm looking at how this is extruding out of the head, and I'm like, that's just too far out. And I think it has a lot to do with the size of this nose. Like this nose needs to be a lot more shallow. And then I think this whole muzzle thing needs to just be way more shallow. But I think the faceting I'm doing a pretty good job of. And again, I'm going to try to do some more outfitting, like give some of this stuff a little bit more sci-fi vibes and aesthetics. But I'm going to try to make it look as close as I possibly can for what it's worth with what I know about Rivals from just looking at these two images to the left and this one on the right about this like large faceting aspect. And I'm going to get better versions of this painting style happening on this character once I add more color. Because I think like adding a little bit more reflective materials, adding a little bit more sharpening of the edges once I actually start to see more of what's going on underneath the hood here. But as I was saying, like sometimes I don't know how an artist may do something, so I just will attempt it. It's the best way to learn, and you'll get it wrong. Like this is the beauty of trying to, like you'll see what you've done, and then you'll start to kind of question it, and then people on the internet will absolutely give you some feedback. But if you are working, like if I was working at the studio, like if I got an opportunity to work on freelance for them and they said, hey, you know, we like the way that you drew this, but here's some of the things that we do as a team to capture the style, you know, like I'm close enough, but like here's a couple of things that you could have done to really capture the style better. Usually a good art director can help guide that. Then I will follow suit. I'll learn a lot more working amongst them. But you have to understand that when you do get hired for a project, you know, they're not expecting to teach you how to draw the way of the style in the game. Like you should be bringing something to the table. You should, like this Sonic character, in my opinion, is just a good exercise for me to try to understand their paint style. But the value that I think I would bring is my expertise in design. Right? And so another character would probably be better suited for this, where like it's not just like a naked hedgehog, you know, with just gloves and boots. Like some other character, like I'm trying to think. Obviously they have all the Marvel lineup, but let me try to think of a character that's like from a different, like I guess like if you just took DC characters, like me, putting a character like Cyborg in here, because Cyborg's like robotic, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot to interpret and work with there. That I think that would be a good demonstration of like what else I can offer outside of just the paint style, you know? And to me, I think that's usually the value. Here, let me look at the way they draw their eyes. Their eyes are just, I feel like it's just normal. I think that's the thing that I might have to divorce. I might have to like give Sonic some proper eye stuff. But not like the ugly Sonic. Have you guys ever saw that movie, Chip and Dale, where Ugly Sonic's in that movie? It's so good. Again, I'm just trying to see kind of that could work. I can make that work. I think there's all the pieces here to make this work. Again, I'm gonna save that for a little bit later. Okay, cool. So now let's add some color. Let's make a layer on top of this. And I am absolutely going to just do a multiply, I think is the way to go here. And I am just going to essentially do this. Just fill this all the way up with this blue. I'm gonna work with these different blues here. Just kind of scatter it around a little bit. Not worrying about the shine just yet. Just trying to get some volume here. And then we're going to go ahead and give him some red boots. And in fact, for the white stripe, I'm just going to erase the color that I've already put in here, because it's already white underneath. And, oh yeah, that's right. Need to be more faceted shapes. Can't just be perfectly striped. It needs to have some personality. Okay, and then this is all white, so let's go ahead and let's actually do it like up to here, and then I'll bring it back up to red there. I think that works better. Actually, it can be like that. And then grab this red, splash it up on the top here. And again, I'll correct a lot of that kind of stuff in the paint over. But let's get some of this white on the gloves. So far, so good. Let's get some of this brown, light brown for the inner ear. Yeah, let's just do it here too. Cool. And then the muzzle. Again, I'm not trying to be 100% precise here, because I can always correct that. Yeah, I can already see just from looking at this, like this should swoop down more. So I'm going to try to attempt to correct that with the colors. It's not reflected in the paint over or the underpaint, I mean, but it is reflected in the colors. And then let's grab this color again, and I think what I'll do here is, again, stylize it a bit, because it's going to represent rivals. And it looks like his arms, so like maybe I can kind of, his arms are not blue at all, but that feels weird. So I'm not sure how I like that. Yeah, let me see. Let me just keep exploring this. Kind of like looks like he's hold on, let me see something. Give me 1 second. It kind of looks like he's wearing a tank top. Hold on. I'm on my phone, Sonic. Hedgehog, I have a feeling. Yeah. So I'm looking at Sonic the Hedgehog from the movie, and as I expected, they probably ran into the same, like, this looks kind of sus, which is that his arms are blue in the movie. So I think that's the right call. It just feels better. Like, that feels great. I have no hard feelings about this. And then we'll just kind of carve out the eye shapes. do I want to do this like eye that connects underneath? I don't think so. I think even again in the movie, they don't really do that. And this is one of those things where it's like, I might not be able to solve this with just a simple color correction here. But it's looking cool. Like there's enough of the pieces here that I might be able to pull this off now. Okay. It looks kind of goofy the way his eyes are, but this is where I will start to correct it with like my painting skills. At least we'll see. It might become a complete disaster. Might be too realistic of a body proportions here that I've done. Also, he might not have a neck. I think that's what's also throwing me off. All right, whatever. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. And then let's just merge this all down. Ooh, actually, I don't want the line art. Okay, cool. All right. So now I'm going to use like a different brush that I think will help me capture this the most effective way, this faceting. And so now we're going to try to correct the face immediately. So I think that's like the biggest culprit. And again, I don't have the best example of the eyes, but I think they just draw eyes the way people draw eyes. I don't think there's anything unique about them. So I'm going to try to give them larger pupils, and we'll give them like actual reflectivity there and see how that will take. And then we got to add in the smirk, which this to me is like the hardest thing for me to figure out. Like I actually have no idea how I'm going to solve this problem, but I'm gonna try. And then yeah, this is no bueno. Yeah, that makes a huge difference already. Okay, so let's try to capture some of the shape language from this thing right here, because I like how this isn't perfectly rounded. That feels like a good call. And honestly, this is a good moment to talk about what I would actually show a client. Like I would show them this concept, but because of like the nature of it, the IP, I would probably like still show versions that are closer and even much further. Like to me, this is like too much of a middle ground, and that makes me feel like that it's not the best strat. Like I feel what I would do instead is absolutely go ham on some versions of this that feel really wild. And the only reason is so that I can like potentially open up the doors of what this could actually be. And if I was doing a lineup, like this would be one of few. Like again, I'm only doing this one for the sake of a video content, but I would show like 3 or 4. So I'm not convinced one way or another. Yeah, I think going with like lots of fur here, that's the way to go. Like really try to capture this. Smirk came out all right. I'm okay with the smirk. Again, I'm getting cut up in the face because I felt like that was the one thing that I wanted to solve immediately. And I think this is already working. And I want to also capture a lot of their like shapes. There's like not too many shapes that are just really simple. Like they're all doing something fantastic. Like they're all carved beautifully. And so I want to like try to make sure I carve a lot of my shapes beautifully as well. And again, this is one of those things that I just would not be talking I'll just be painting and looking at reference religiously. I'm going to put some blue on that other side just because I feel like I have to. Okay, let's put some shadows here. And again, carving these shapes out. And I'm going to make some of these shapes in the chest a little bit more interesting. And I think this doesn't need to go as far down as I planted it here. And then what we need to do, because if you look, there's like a lot of sweeping shapes here. And I'm thinking what I might have to do is come back after. Like I'm just going to put the groundwork, and I'm going to come back with like a much harder brush that's like a lot less forgiving to allow me to like get very precise types of shapes. But to do it with this brush is not the way. And honestly, it's doing a good job of just getting in the colors more efficiently, you know? And what I need to do instead is like, I need to get like this color mixture, get like a bit of like a cyan in here, cyan, for more of the reflectivity. Need more. And then I'll come back and like I said, I'll handle this later with something other brush. You know, sometimes you just gotta trust the process. But a lot of what I'm saying and doing, you guys might still be like, damn, I don't have that knowledge. Like, how do I acquire that? And again, it just requires a lot of training, a lot of practice. Like I told you guys, I didn't feel too worried about the painting process because this is my strongest skill set. And what I knew I was able to do with painting, I would probably have a harder time with the design if I just stuck to the painting part of it. I'm not sure if I would have gotten as far as I am now. So basically getting ahead of it and doing some basic line art might have been all I needed to do. I can't wait to get into like the backlight because that's going to be a huge deal. Yeah, see, this is where I'm like, okay, shoot. Should I get like should I get a little bit fancy with the brushes already? I don't know, man. I'm still not convinced. Yeah, there's like this cross-hatching work. That's really cool. I think again, the faceting, trying to think from the perspective of the modeler when they see this, they're like, yeah, I get it. I know what I must do. I know what must be done. and they're going to be happy to do it. I'm sure there's going to be orthographics to provide for the artists as well, but yeah, let me stay locked in for a little bit. There's a little bit of gap there, which looks wrong. There should be a gap here. That will look better. Okay. And what I already know too, like there needs to be more compartments of forms and like more details. Like it shouldn't be these three major hair follicles. Like there should be like that is like what's making the large shape read, but there needs to be some silhouette breaking stuff that gives it a bit more groundedness in the world of rivals. You know, like you can't be this clean or this cartoony is probably a better way of describing it, like just too simplistic. It needs to be a bit more oomph. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe the IP holders and the art direction Like the art team would be like, no, it's okay. We got some characters that are a lot simpler. You can totally get away with this. Um, this is just my hunch. And that's the beauty of like working with a team of people, is that, you know, when you look at a lot of concept art that's at the tail end, like when you see it revealed on like ArtStation, there is a sense that like that person, that individual, and this is like including me, like that's all them. Like they were able to make such a beautiful piece of artwork. But the reality is a lot of the projects that we work on, it's absolutely collaborative, and lots of people give feedback and insight, from, you know, obviously upper management and director roles, but also your peers, and even people that are at the junior and associate level might have some really awesome insight, you know, and you just kind of get all of this great feedback and insight, and you work on like a design multiple times over. Like it's never going to be like the final version, you know? It's always like a bit of, oh, you know what else I think is happening? There's a bit of like line art. And I think that's because of the comic book nature. I was like, why does my piece feel like it's still missing something? There's a bit of line art. So I need to bring that into the fray. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm not going to render this entirely, but I am going to give it a fair shot. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this honestly, I'll probably would do up to this point. Maybe I would add in like the highlights and some of the line art like right now, and then just call it a day, and then move on to a different version. And I might even take this version and like create like an iteration of it that is a little bit more wild. Um, but what I'm trying to explain here is that projects get worked on uh, in teams, you know, and it's incredibly important to understand and respect that that is the case. Let me look at Blade real quick. Let me see how they're handling. Yeah, it's a lot of facets and cuts, and definitely some line art. Okay, so is the line art too just like straight black? Yeah, it looks like it's just dark lines. Cool. Okay, I'm into it. Let's do it. And thank God, because I really would like to have like a black line in the eyes. That will help push it a lot more. Like that's a quick fix to give it a lot more edge. Maybe this line's too thick. And definitely going to start doing the stuff I said earlier, like start to create more elaborate shapes here. Let me zoom out, make sure I'm not muddying the waters too much. And although the colors to me too, like I think I can still push to saturation. I think I'm okay with this. I think this is all Gucci. Looks like his mouth is full of something. I might have to come back and correct that just via painting. But yeah, I'm sure if any of the artists that worked on Rivals sees this, they would be like, yeah, absolutely. It was like a team. Like we all had given each other feedback. Um, this is usually the kind of feedback we commonly run into, you know, that I just am not privy to. I don't have access to that. And so showing this concept, and then they're like, oh, yeah. This is good, but what we would normally do here, and then XYZ, whatever that is, right? And again, as a young artist trying to get work for these types of projects, you have to be able to remember that they will teach you up to a point, but like if they're going to teach you every aspect of how to do the artwork, then you've basically demonstrated you are not going to bring much value, and you're actually going to potentially take value away from the people that shouldn't be teaching you. They should be working themselves. They should be making more assets, more skins, you know? And you're out here asking questions every 5 seconds. You need to be able to just show them the work, and then they're like give you feedback, and then the feedback teaches you what you could have done better, how you could have improved. You know what I mean? Yeah. This has been very enjoyable. I'm enjoying this whole process. Again, yeah, they definitely, I was like, do they like do dark comic book like shadows? Because they do. Hell yeah, man. I love it. Because that's my jam. I love strong contrast. So any opportunity, and again, I think they do very comic book hatching. And it's not clear to me. It's not clear to me. Sorry, I'm like getting lost in this process. This is so fun. It's not clear to me that there's any real rigidity here, but I love this like Scion. Like I'm curious how I'm gonna handle that. I have an idea. Yeah, they definitely do like the chromatic aberration. Okay, so what I'm thinking I might have to do, because I have a way that I would do chromatic aberration, but the way that they're doing it is very clever. And so what I think I'm gonna do is just make the edges. Oh, these gloves need to go on for them. There you go. That's good value. Um, where I will draw the white, and then I'm gonna basically convert it into red and cyan, magenta and cyan colors by hand, which isn't too hard. And I'll see if that works. If it doesn't, then I'll try something else. We will try whatever will get the job done. Okay. But yeah, you can see how from the start I had a lot of concerns about like certain aspects of like the proportionality. Um, but now I'm feeling really good about it. I think a lot of it was just confidence that I can try to correct these problems as soon as they are revealed. I still feel strongly about this nose. I think this nose, I mean, he does have a big honker here, but it just feels like for this iteration, it shouldn't be that big. And then just put like strong highlight there. And then maybe oh, I don't know how the mouth came back to work, but now it feels fine to me. Yeah, this like coming back with the black line feels great. Squirrel Girl doesn't look like she has a lot of them, so I might be taking too much liberties here, but honestly, I prefer it. It's like I like it more. And I'm being cautious only adding it to the front facing side, like the line art, because I know once I start to add some of the reflective lighting, or the rim light, like I'm gonna probably hide all of that, if not most of it. Yeah, let's just take advantage of any opportunity we can get. Didn't really put enough love and attention to the shoes, the feet, but honestly, and honestly the hands as well, but it's fine. we'll just move on with our lives. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can bring this home. I feel like I could still add more facets. Throughout this entire painting. Let's do stuff like this. This will be nice. Good old facets. Oh yeah, I didn't add the back piece. Let me add that now. Let's take this value here and let's just throw that in the back. And I honestly don't think it needs to be done up any more than what we see there, to be honest. What happens if I put some more shadow to that? That's cool. I like how that really sticks out, but it might be too much. Let's just do a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to keep that separate too. I might come back to that. Okay, so even in her hair, she has a lot of these like details. So I'm going to try to do that too. Ooh, the ears. I absolutely should do the ears. Hold on, let me try to salvage the ears a bit here. That felt good. Maybe I should just draw them out and then use the highlights later. Where's the dark value? Let me get this dark value. And use the highlights to essentially capture the shape of this ear a little bit more aggressively. All right, let's do some of the fun stuff. Let's start doing that. I think it is time. Okay. This should be okay for now. All right, cool. All right. There's still some parts where I'm just like, maybe I can come back and fix these. But again, for the sake of, oh, I actually wanted this to be healed too. Totally screwed that up. It's all right. We'll just call it what it is. Just clown. Just freaking clown shoes here. No. We got some time. Let's just do it. And then I'll just do something like this. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway. Okay. Let's see how this will go. And honestly, I'm going to clip it now. And again, it's very, very much super facets. Like it's really catching these forms almost like gem, like the corners and shapes of gems. And this is a really important thing to keep in track when looking at this specific style. Like this is clearly something that they care a lot about. So much so that if you look at the 3D models, you can see they like created certain types of shaders and post-process effects to like have it sit on the model, at least for the promotional material. And like the character selection screens. So it's very obvious to me that this is very important. And it's very comic book vibes too, to have like such strong shapes and forms. You know, there's only so much real estate you have on any given page. So what will tend to happen is that if you uh, leave it up to just like what's on the page and have like everything appeared or appearing as realistic and as sorry, I'm like distracted. Let me just say this thought. Yeah, if you have strong contrast in your pages, then it becomes very obvious what you're looking at, right? Like this is a character in a back alley, or this is a character doing a punch or jumping off a building. And if you start to add everything to be more realistically lit and more dynamic and more believable in like a comic strip, it becomes really muddy because you have all these different panels everywhere, you know? And so for them, this is like just a stylistic call. Like I don't think there's any real marriage of what it's like to draw a comic for the clarity and the simple fact of like print too. Like just it's easier to print with less colors. It's more like they just wanted it to feel this way. It didn't seem like it had to be done this way. But I'm all for it. I think this is a great aesthetic choice. I think they nailed it. I loved it when I first saw it. When I first saw glimpses of it, I was like, damn, that shit looks so tight. Okay, let's fill in any of these gaps here to make this look a little bit more professional. And then let me attempt something here. Let me go ahead and just, oh wait, before I duplicate that, I need to add this up to the back bin. Okay, cool. So let me just, whoops. So I had an idea of what I would want to do here, but now I'm kind of thinking I have a fascinating idea. What if I just give this the chromatic aberration that I was going to do? Like this right here. And just do it a couple times. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. So it's kind of doing what we're seeing from Blade, but again, it's mainly happening on the lighting. So having it happen over here is a no bueno. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase. Actually, that's a bad idea. Let's mask. I have a mask placed on this. I have hotkeys for this. Kind of just capture it on these fringes here. And now that I have these colors, what I can do is just kind of paint them in. Whoop. Give me that layer. There you go. Oh, didn't do it. There you go. Give me this color. There you go. And then just be very cautious. Actually, I don't like how that looks at all. I think I'm just going to leave it be and call it a day. Now I'm gonna begin painting over this, just generally speaking, and then add more line art. But I think I'm gonna do is not use black. I'm just going to pick a darker version of this blue for here, and then a darker version of this kind of brown right here. And then I'm going to paint in and around it. It's got a little bit of a stylized belly here, but it's okay. But what this is doing now is just I'm refining it. And I probably would spend another, I'll probably spend another hour or two correcting all of this stuff. Is there anything else that I'm missing here that I can just try to add? No, just strong reflectivity, which I've done already quite effectively, I feel like. Yeah, I think that was fine as it was. Maybe just add another one. Just kind of marry it with some of these other values here. Yeah, I would probably spend like another hour or two if I really wanted to finish this piece, you know? But that's not the goal. This is just to show you guys how I would attempt to design Sonic if he was in this style. And again, like I already explained, I wouldn't just do one variation, I would do several. And then I would essentially show it to the team and get some feedback immediately. You know, I would not sit on this one design. I am unfortunately locked in my own mind. I can't go any further than what I have done here without guidance from my art director and team. I'm sure they would have some thoughts and some opinions. They'll say, hey, you know, maybe the stylization is too much. Maybe we can lean closer to the original source material. Maybe let's lean further away, like give him more tech, you know? Cool. But like I said, I would show like two or three more versions, like one way closer to this, and then one way further away, like one that's closer to like what Blade's doing, adding some stuff that you might not see from the actual comics. There's some liberties been taken here from like the armor design and stuff, you know? Like repurpose these gloves and boots to look more mechanical, I think would be my next step. And then lean further into eyes being more closer to what they already have. But this is a good middle ground, I think. I think if I could do it again, I'll do the one where it's my version, all in. There's no denying that it is completely a divorce from the original source material. But it's like the clues of Sonic are there. I think this is closer to this in terms of the gradation than it is to like an original version of Sonic. I think this still would be considered an original version for what it's worth, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. But yeah, that's how I would approach like trying to style bend a little bit, you know? Be very observant of what I see from the works. Be very aware of like IP holders and their opinions, and then do several iterations that I did not demonstrate here for the sake of time because it's already an hour-long video. Yeah, hope this helps you guys make cool concept art. And yeah, this is a great exercise for portfolio building for what it's worth. Like if you would love to work for a certain company or project, then it is absolutely within your interest to try to take a established IP like Marvel Rivals and then plug in or shoehorn another IP that's clearly not an infringement of any kind. That way people can see how you would adapt a well-known character that's not within the IP that can demonstrate your competencies. And for what it's worth, you could probably still take a character that's in the Marvel roster and do kind of fan art. This is absolutely fan art. I don't imagine Sonic being injected into Marvel Rivals. And if that day does come, I am almost certain they'll be like, hey, can you get rid of this? I will have to, because it is absolutely reasonable. Because I am trying to make Sonic look like he's in Marvel Rivals, and they would absolutely not want any confusion amongst audiences. So if that ever comes, I'll let you guys know. But until then, I think this is totally fair use. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I'm excited to see what you guys make out of this.